Welcome back to Teen Story Share. This week we're starting a brand new book. It is The Princess Curse by Merrie Haskell, and it is a fairy tale retelling of the classic story 12 Dancing Princesses, and it's set in medieval Romania. So we're going to jump right in. Chapter 1. 3 days after my 13th birthday, Armus, the executioner and chief of prisons, came for me while I ate breakfast. "Apprentice," Armus said, his cold voice freezing the thyme pie in my throat. "Princess Consort wants you." Cook whispered behind me, "Too many pies." I almost irked with worry. I didn't think they actually jailed people for eating too much in Sylvania, but they probably did punish new apprentices for insubordination, and I had been a tad insubordinate to my master. I slid from my stool, feeling stiff and weak, but I held my head high and marched ahead of Armus into the courtyard while the castle kitchen burst into excited chatter behind us. My stomach knotted and tumbled harder, and I wished for a pinch of mint to settle it. Halfway across the courtyard, I asked Armus, "Did the princess consort say why?" "Oh, sure," Armus said. "Princess consort tells me just everything." I fell silent. I had not known him to be capable of such sarcasm. We stepped into the great hall, and I said, "I don't suppose my father—" But then my eyes adjusted to the dimness, and I saw Pa waiting beside the dragon-kidnaps-a-maiden tapestry, chewing at the ends of his black mustaches. Every step across the great hall seemed to take more effort than it should have. Pa nodded to Armus and said, "I've got her." My heart fell at his tone, and I stared at the tapestry to hide my worry. I wasn't going to be able to lie my way out of this, whatever it was. Armus, maybe, I could lie to. Armus, maybe, I could trick into mercy. But with Pa, there would be no chance to lie, or even to stretch the truth into a pleasing shape. I noticed a snagged thread on the tapestry maiden's pale cheek. It marred her face, though she was too frightened of the dragon to be pretty. And it wasn't just any dragon, but a fire-breathing Zmeyu, trying to kiss her. Armus gave me into Pa's custody and went to inform the princess consort that I'd arrived. I stood there, waiting. My favorite thing. I poked at the snag on the tapestry, trying to push it through to the other side of the cloth, mostly to avoid looking at Pa. "Well, Reveka?" Pa asked. He spoke in his warning voice, the voice that had once caused thousands of men to shake in their boots, but now mostly kept a lot of junior gardeners attentive to their shovels. "I know your rule, Pa," I said, exasperated but trying to sound calm. Like I would lie right in front of Pa. I poked harder at the thread. It wanted to go through. It wanted to disappear. "It's not just a rule, Reveka." "I know, it's also a promise." I wrinkled my nose, trying not to think why I'd had to promise Pa never to lie. I twisted the snagged tapestry threads together, hoping that would make them look smaller, at least. Pa swatted my hand away from the tapestry. "You'll unravel the whole thing, and you've no skill to put it back together." I still wouldn't face him, so he grabbed hold of my chin to make me meet his eye. "You need not be truthful for my sake, but your own. What kind of reputation do you want to have around the castle, and with the princess consort?" I didn't have a chance to answer before Armus came out of the solar. He gave Pa a deep nod, then ambled away. A minor relief. Armus wasn't standing by to drag me off for a beating. Of course, Pa had a strong arm, too. Giving me the tight grimace that was supposed to be his smile, Pa guided me into the princess consort's solar. Princess Daciana, Prince Vasila's child bride, sat sewing in a pool of morning sunlight, a red and black military banner spilled across her lap. She looked so calm and regal, it was hard to remember that she'd been princess consort for only 2 years, since she had turned 13. It would be like me getting married this year, except the common folk don't marry so young, being more sensible than the higher folk. Brother Cosmin stood by, looking half scarecrow, half asleep, and completely annoyed. Brother Cosmin was the herbalist of Castle Sylvian, and my master, and if anyone had a grievance against me, it was probably him. Still, I hadn't thought that he'd take my arguments about herbs so personally, as such a challenge that he'd drag me before the princess consort for punishment. He didn't look happy to be here, though. Maybe it was because it was before noon. Pa went to stand beside Brother Cosmin, leaving me to face the princess. "So, Constantine, this is your daughter?" Princess Daciana asked. "Her name is Reveka, Highness," Pa said, while I folded my hands in my apron and examined the red and black dragons painted on the high ceiling beams. Dragons were Prince Vasila's heraldic animal, and dragons twined all over Castle Sylvian, carved into doorways, woven into carpets. They were even embroidered onto the hem of Princess Daciana's dress. "Reveka," the princess consort said, holding a needle in the air between us and squinting at me through the tiny eye, "tell me how you chose the herbs for my stepdaughter's bath this morning." She stabbed a spit-smooth thread through the needle's eye and bent her head to continue sewing. I stared at her. This was about the bath herbs? I was having an interview with the princess consort about bath herbs? A memory came to me from earlier this morning, when the princesses, Princess Daciana's stepdaughters, all 12 of them older than she, had entered the bath. Princess Marikara had sniffed the air and asked Marriott, the bathwoman, if she'd been eating cabbage soup. I hadn't stayed to hear the answer. I hadn't thought anything of it, really. Cabbage has a strong smell, but... Brother Cosmin frantically billowed the brown sleeves of his robe in my direction, urging me to answer. "The cabbage was supposed to reduce the princess's vigor," I said. The princess consort frowned. Oops, I'd left off her honorific. I mumbled, "Most noble serene highness," and curtsied poorly. The princess coughed spasmodically. I wondered if her lungs were wet. She looked healthy. No roses of illness bloomed in her cheeks. Too bad. I knew some impressive herbs to ease the pains of consuming sickness. "How, pray tell, did concern about their vigor bring you to make my stepdaughters smell like," and I quote Princess Lacrimora, "hill cottagers at sup?" "Oh, Easter." "Well," I said in my best professional herbalist voice, "cabbage cures inflammations. It calms swellings in the liver where the soul dwells, and the brain where the animal feelings arise. So, cabbage might help the princesses sleep right through the nightly effects of the curse. That way—" I trailed off, suddenly acutely conscious that the princess had abandoned her banner to a crumpled pile in her lap and was regarding me curiously. I added, "I didn't think the smell would be a problem." The princess consort compressed her lips. "I'm glad to have someone working on the princess's plate, Reveka, but you must refrain from making their bathwater smell like soup, or stew, or any sort of kitchen-made item, in the future. My stepdaughters are princesses. Tonight they must charm the Saxon delegation, for Princess Teresa is to meet her betrothed. We cannot have anyone smelling like cabbage rolls." "Yes, most noble and serene, and of course, that is simply no way to go about breaking a curse either. Curses don't like to be broken." She tapped her thin nose delicately. "Subtlety, Reveka. A curse should never smell you coming." "Of course, most noble. Now then, your punishment. You must apologize to Marriott, the bathwoman, who is so distressed by what occurred this morning." I waited for her to continue, but she didn't. "That's all?" I blinked, surprised. Pa shook his head at me in warning, but the princess smiled. "That is all, Reveka. You and Brother Cosmin may go." I was astonished. I'd had no clue what I'd done wrong when I was summoned, though that wasn't so unusual a circumstance in my lifetime, and I had expected the worst. But apologizing to Marriott was barely a punishment, though that didn't mean Brother Cosmin and Pa might not each have something extra in mind for me later, just to make sure I understood my transgression. I glanced at Pa as I turned to follow Brother Cosmin out. I knew I should bolt with my collecting basket and spend the day conveniently absent while I gathered mushrooms and wild herbs. But we'd been at the castle for only a few weeks, so I didn't really know the forest. Still, it would put me out of Pa's way. The princess consort was holding him behind to talk, and I had time to clear out. I was 3 steps ahead of Brother Cosmin when I heard my name. Pa and the princess were talking about me? I checked my stride and stepped slower, letting Brother Cosmin pass. And when I reached the door of the solar, I didn't follow him out into the great hall, but slid behind the dragon-kidnaps-a-maiden tapestry. I didn't hear my name again. Pa and the princess consort were talking about ditches and earthworks. Pa is the castle's head gardener, which makes it sound like he spends all his time with plants and trees, but gardeners are also in charge of dirt and digging and ditches and earthworks and ramparts and everything involving dirt. Pa was known as a magician of fortification, though it wasn't magic. It was just understanding how geometry and dirt could best be used for aiming defensive cannons and deflecting the enemy's fire. Pa said, "The tunnel under the southern rampart collapsed again." "I believe that means we're close," the princess said. "Try again, Constantine. The Hungarians suggest that the succession be set by autumn, and if we don't have the possibility of an heir by then, I'm sure Corvinus will march on us." "Corvinus has problems with his own succession," Pa said. "He'd do well to turn his attention there." "Corvinus expanded his kingdom by interfering in the affairs of other princes. Dig faster. We have no time." If Pa answered that, it was with a nod or gesture, because then the princess said, "And Reveka?" "Me?" Pa's reply was flat. "No." "No? No what?" The princess sighed. "The cabbage incident tells me she wishes to help, Constantine." "Highness, I beg you, do not confuse her childish impulse with a calling." "This cannot be the great soldier Constantine. I thought you seized any opportunity, and every opportunity." "We have better, wiser options than my impetuous daughter." I thought about taking offense at this, but then the princess consort dismissed Pa, and I panicked. Pa was going to catch me eavesdropping. While the tapestry hid me from the hall, he would see me standing in the gap between the cloth and the wall when he came out of the solar. I sidled deeper into the shadows and squinched my eyes tight so he wouldn't see their gleam, and maybe also hoping, just a little bit, that I'd be invisible to him. A hand clamped down on my arm. So much for willing myself invisible. All right, next time we're going to find out more about the curse. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend and see you again next time. Bye-bye.